A new report reveals that cybercrime continues to grow at an alarming rate, creating serious threats for businesses and shoppers. Joining us today is cybersecurity expert Chris Novak, who is here to share some shocking information from Verizon's annual data breach investigation report. Novak is the vice president of Verizon Global Cybersecurity Solutions with more than 20 years experience providing solutions to prevent cyber threats. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so start off by telling us the highlights from this cybersecurity report.
Yeah, so the Verizon Data Breach Investigations Report is now 18 years running. And in this year's report, we've got a massive amount of data to talk about. Over 22,000 incidents and over 12,000 data breaches spanning over 130 countries around the globe. So really illustrating that the cyber threat landscape is a global problem. Some of the key things that really stood out in this year's report were things like third-party risk. The fact that an organization may not be directly targeted at its front door, but it may very well be that the most likely avenue is coming through a third-party affiliate or that they do business with. Another key area that jumped out at us was around things like small businesses or medium businesses, organizations that have been predominantly hit with a heavy degree of ransomware attacks, where for them, such an attack might be the very thing that ends their business. So there's a lot that we can learn around that, as well as things like personal device usage. We saw a dramatic increase this year in terms of people using personal devices for business purposes or BYOD devices that are not so adequately secured that maybe are leading to their businesses being compromised or sensitive data being put at risk.
Chris, you mentioned small businesses. How can small businesses be better prepared going forward?
The key to preparation is education and awareness. They need to be doing training to understand, for example, when a social engineering attack happens or a scam is coming to them, how is it that their people can readily acknowledge and understand that that is a problem and how they go about reporting it. For example, in this year's report, we highlighted that organizations that actually undertook education campaigns in that area, they were 4 times more likely to have their people identify and report something that is a scam or a phishing attack as opposed to maybe falling victim to it. Then the other thing I would also highlight are the importance of things just as basic as backing up your data. If you get hit with a ransomware attack, the last thing we want you to have to then do is pay a ransom and then still have to go through all of the recovery efforts and costs associated with it if you can afford to do so. So having a good solid backup and then also an ability to recover is paramount.
That's good to know. Chris, can you pinpoint what are some of the most common threats?
Some of the most common threats include things like phishing attacks, pretexting. A variation of that we see is called smishing, where the attack comes in the form of a text message, usually with some sense of urgency that says you've got a payment to make or a package to receive with a link that you can click. And then in doing so, what they're trying to do is capture your credentials. Because a big thing that we see is the credentials are the key to access almost everything. And so ultimately, how is it that you're managing that, educating people on that so that you can ultimately avoid those types of attacks negatively impacting your organization?
Chris, earlier you mentioned having a backup plan, backing up your information. How can businesses or shoppers better protect their information as well?
So while there's no one size fits all, one of the most important things that I can recommend and that the report highlights is layered security or a defense in-depth posture. So looking at things like how they're securing their endpoints, how they're implementing strong passwords, using things like multi-factor authentication, those little tokens or apps that give you a login code. And then the other thing that's really important is cybersecurity attacks, they're not a matter of if they'll happen, they're a matter of when. And so it becomes critically important that you understand and have practiced your response strategy so that you know when this event occurs, you've got the right muscle memory to ultimately respond. And then having some ecosystem of partners that you can rely on. It may be an organization that helps you with, consulting on your cybersecurity journey or managed security services.
Chris, thanks for helping us out when it comes to this. Appreciate all of this information to our viewers to help ensure that your small business or personal info isn't at risk. You can get more info by heading to verizon.com/DBIR.